Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. The acrid stench of molten metal mingled with the choking haze of ion smoke, hanging heavy in the stifling air of the Serenity 4 colony on the planet Lara. Lieutenant Ethan Caldwell slid behind a shattered concrete wall, his back pressed against its cold, unyielding surface, his breaths ragged within the confines of his helmet. His tactical armor flickered red, the heads-up display screaming that power reserves were at a mere 12%, the hiss of damaged circuits a grim omen of death. But Ethan paid it no mind. He was no stranger to dancing on the edge of oblivion. Around him, the crystalline towers that once shimmered with radiant light, symbols of humanity's hope on this distant world, lay in ruins, pulverized under the relentless bombardment of the Xytherans, soulless war machines standing 15 meters tall, programmed to eradicate all life. He gripped his energy rifle tightly, fingers brushing the ammo counter. 8 plasma rounds, not enough to survive long, but enough to make the enemy pay. "Status report!" he shouted into his comms, voice hoarse from smoke and adrenaline, but only static answered. The Xytherans had deployed jammers, severing all links to Earth Alliance command. Ethan was alone, a ghost in a storm of fire, isolated in the heart of enemy territory. Through the dense veil of smoke, he glimpsed the colossal silhouettes of the Xytherans moving, their mechanical steps shaking the ground like an earthquake, sending tremors through his boots. Each stride was a declaration of war, each clank of metal a reminder that his time was running out. His mission was clear, sharp as a blade: destroy the colony's central energy core before the machines could hack Earth's defense data. Failure meant not just the fall of Serenity 4, but the collapse of humanity's entire defense network, leaving the homeworld defenseless. A blinding explosion tore through the air, staggering Ethan as debris whipped past, a shard grazing his shoulder, leaving a searing scratch on his armor. With bio-enhanced reflexes, he rolled to dodge a collapsing steel beam, its crash against the ground roaring like a wounded beast. He sprang up, activating his tactical visor, the display instantly highlighting 5 Xytheran machines advancing, their sensor eyes sweeping the rubble like predatory beasts, glowing red in the darkness. "All right then," Ethan muttered, breath heavy, a bitter smile flickering across his lips. "Let's see how long you last." He had nothing left to lose, no family, no kin, only his mission and the stubborn resolve of a soldier who'd seen too much death. He pulled 2 ion grenades from his belt, fingers dancing over the activation studs with the precision of a man who'd done this 100 times. Setting the timers, he hurled them with deadly accuracy, the grenades arcing through the air like twin streaks of light, slamming into the lead machine. The explosion rocked the battlefield, the Xytheran collapsing in a sea of fire, its armor melting with a screech like a wounded animal. But the remaining 4 pressed forward, their plasma weapons glowing, unleashing azure beams that tore through the air, one grazing Ethan's helmet, leaving a burning sensation. He charged through the smoke, boots slipping on crystal shards, firing relentlessly at the weak underbelly of a machine, where exposed joints gleamed like a giant's Achilles heel. Each plasma round was a defiance, each shot a testament that humanity would not yield easily. But the Xytherans were no ordinary foe. They were destruction incarnate, devoid of emotion, tireless, driven by the cold logic of killing machines. Ethan felt the battle's weight pressing on his shoulders, his heart pounding, but he didn't stop. He vaulted over a fallen wall, rolling to evade another plasma beam, then lobbed his last EMP grenade at the nearest machine. The electromagnetic pulse stalled it, its sensor lights flickering chaotically, but before Ethan could capitalize, a massive shadow loomed behind him. A 6th Xytheran, cloaked in the smoke, had crept close. He spun, rifle raised, but it was too late. A colossal mechanical arm swung, swift as a deathly gale, slamming into his chest. The armor absorbed most of the impact, but Ethan felt ribs crack, breath forced from his lungs. He flew backward, crashing into a pile of rubble, his helmet splitting, the visor flickering before going dark. Sprawled amid crystal and steel debris, Ethan tried to move, but his body refused. Blood dripped from a gash on his forehead, mingling with ion dust. Through fading vision, he saw the Xytheran approach, its red sensor eyes blazing like death's gaze. No, not done yet, he whispered, his weak hand fumbling at his belt for a weapon, anything to keep fighting. But there was nothing, no grenades, no rounds, only the unyielding will of a soldier. He thought of Earth, of fallen comrades, of his oath to protect humanity at any cost. The machine raised its arm for the killing blow, and Ethan closed his eyes, ready to meet his fate. But then, a thunderous roar erupted, not from the machine, but from something else, alive, powerful, and brimming with fury. A massive figure burst through the smoke, colliding with the Xytheran, toppling it in a blaze of metal and fire. Ethan's eyes fluttered open, catching a glimpse of enormous hands, shimmering with emerald light, lifting him from the wreckage before his consciousness sank into darkness. When awareness returned, Ethan Caldwell felt an unfamiliar warmth, as if floating on a bed of feathers, gentle and soothing, easing the dull ache in his battered body. His eyes blurred, vision wavering through a haze, but he realized he was cradled in powerful arms, his body pressed against a soft, warm surface that radiated a sweet scent, like wildflowers mixed with the dry bite of desert wind. His breathing slowed, heart pounding as he blinked, struggling to grasp reality. Astonishment hit him. He was nestled against the chest of a colossal being, its emerald skin glinting like gemstones under dim light, intricate patterns swirling across it like a map of the stars. Instinctively, his battle-sharpened mind identified her, a Sorathian warrior, a legendary species from the infinite star systems, renowned for superhuman strength and unwavering loyalty. His heart raced, not from fear, but from the overwhelming strangeness of it all. He struggled weakly, but his exhausted body, bruised from the battlefield, dragged him back into darkness before he could speak. The second time he awoke, Ethan found himself on a strange bed, soft as a bird's nest, woven from shimmering fibers that glowed with a gentle blue light. The room around him was a marvel of alien technology. Curved crystal walls pulsed with light, as if alive, beating in rhythm like a giant's heart. The air carried a sweet tang, laced with a briny hint of the sea, soothing the dryness in his throat. His head throbbed, memories of the Xytheran battle flashing like shards, explosions, smoke, and the mechanical arm that nearly ended him. He tried to sit up, but a sharp pain in his chest made him grimace, breath hitching. "Damn it!" he muttered, hand instinctively reaching for his tactical armor, now a patchwork of broken pieces, neatly arranged on a nearby stand. Then she appeared, a Sorathian warrior over 10 meters tall, moving with impossible grace, like a breeze across a desert. Her blue hair flowed like a river under moonlight, shimmering as crystal light danced across it. Her armor, forged from liquid metal, clung to her form, accentuating strength and elegance in equal measure. "You're awake, little warrior!" Her voice resonated, deep and commanding, laced with an alien cadence, as if each word were carved from gemstone, stirring his heart despite his efforts to stay stoic. "I am Calith, and you, unexpected guest, have stirred this land." She leaned closer, silver eyes gleaming like twin stars, studying him with curiosity and a hint of amusement. Ethan felt her overwhelming power, yet the way she placed a massive but gentle hand on his shoulder carried an odd tenderness, as if he were a fragile treasure. "Don't move," she said, her voice soft but unyielding. "You're not healed. I pulled you from the wreckage, and I won't let you harm yourself further." Ethan met her gaze, striving to maintain a soldier's resolve, though pain and confusion clouded his mind. "I have a mission," he said, voice hoarse but firm. "I need to report on the Xytherans. The colony. Earth's defense data." He paused, drawing a deep breath to quell the pain. Calith interrupted with a smile, both gentle and defiant, her lips curving like a secret waiting to be unveiled. "The Xytherans retreated after clashing with our patrol," she said, her voice low, like an ancient ballad. "Your colony is a dead land now, but safe, for now. As for you..." She stepped closer, her breath carrying the strange, wild scent of alien herbs, making him inhale deeply. "You stay here until I say otherwise." Ethan started to protest, fingers tightening on the bed's edge, but Calith's hand clasped his wrist, not painfully, but a reminder of her superior strength. Her fingers, though massive, were surprisingly gentle, as if she feared hurting him. "You're weak, little warrior," she said, her tone teasing but her eyes filled with admiration. "But your spirit, it burns like a flame. I want to know more of you." Her silver gaze swept over him, from the faint scar on his forehead to his tattered armor, and despite his seasoned resolve, Ethan felt his face flush. There was something in her look, curiosity, respect, and something deeper, as if she saw through to the wounds he kept hidden. He cleared his throat, trying to regain composure. "I'm not a prisoner," he said, voice firmer, though he knew he held no leverage. "I need to contact command. If the Xytherans return..." Kalith tilted her head, her blue hair shimmering, her smile sharpening. "You think I'd let you rush out, in this state, to face those machines again?" She stood tall, towering like a monument, then leaned down, her face inches from his, her breath brushing his cheek. "You fought bravely, little warrior. I saw you, alone against 5 Xytherans, fearless. But now, you're my responsibility." Before Ethan could respond, a low hum vibrated from the crystal walls, as if the room itself sensed danger. Kayla sprang up, her silver eyes hardening, her hand reaching for an energy sword on the wall. "Stay here," she commanded, her voice no longer gentle but sharp as a blade. "Something approaches." Ethan clenched his fists, his soldier's instincts flaring, but his body betrayed him. As Kayla strode out, the crystal door sealed, leaving him in the blue glow, heart pounding with a question: was he saved, or thrust into a new war? In the silent darkness of the Sorathian base, the metallic screech from the corridors faded, replaced by the heavy tread of returning warriors. Kayla stepped into the room, her blue hair disheveled, her energy sword still flickering with faint blue light. "The patrol drove them back," she said, her voice low but tense, her silver eyes scanning Ethan as if to ensure he was unharmed. "Scouts, not Xytherans, but dangerous enough to keep us wary." She sat, her massive frame filling the crystal chair, her gaze sharp, as if the threat lingered. Ethan lay on the bed, heart racing, his mission to destroy the colony's energy core burning in his mind. Though saved, he couldn't stay. He couldn't let Earth fall to the enemy. As the crystal walls glow dimmed and Kalitha's breathing steadied in sleep, Ethan knew his moment had come. That night, as the blue light from the crystal walls faded, the room sank into an eerie stillness, broken only by Kalitha's steady breaths, the towering Sorathian warrior seated in a massive chair near Ethan's bed. Her silver eyes were closed, her blue hair cascading like a shimmering river, yet even in sleep, she exuded a regal aura, as if ready to spring into battle. Ethan lay there, his body aching from battlefield wounds, but his soldiers will refused rest. His mission, to destroy Serenity 4's energy core and protect Earth's defense data, blazed in his mind. He couldn't stay, no matter Kalitha's intentions. Silently he slipped to the floor, legs trembling but supported by his patched tactical armor. Each movement was calculated, each step light as a shadow, his heart pounding as he neared the shimmering crystal door. 10 meters more, 10 meters to return to duty, to report to command and stop the Xytherans. The crystal walls flickered, casting ghostly reflections on his tattered armor. Ethan checked his wrist communicator, still only static, but he hoped leaving the Sorathian base might yield a signal. He glanced back at Kalith, her towering form like a mountain, yet softer, more approachable in sleep. A flicker of hesitation crossed his mind. She'd saved him, cared for him, but he was a soldier, not a guest. He pressed on, hand touching the crystal control panel, heart racing as the door began to slide open, revealing a dark corridor beyond. But then, like a blade through the night, Kalitha's voice rang out, sweet as honey yet cold as steel. "Where are you going, little warrior?" Ethan spun, breath catching, to find Kayla standing, towering like a monument, her silver eyes gleaming in the dim light, like stars piercing his soul. She stepped forward, each footfall vibrating the floor, and Ethan instinctively backed up, his back hitting the cold crystal door. "I have to go," he said, voice firm despite his racing heart, adrenaline surging as it did against Xytherans. "Thank you for saving me, but I'm a soldier. I have a mission." Kalith tilted her head, her long blue hair shimmering like a river under moonlight, a smile flickering across her lips, gentle yet challenging. "Your mission is to survive," she said, her voice low, like a sacred vow. "And I will ensure it." She took another step, and before Ethan could react, she lifted him effortlessly, as if he were a child, pressing him against her warm chest, her emerald skin radiating heat that made him relax despite himself. He struggled, hands pushing against her shoulders, but Kalitha's strength was absolute, like an unyielding mountain. Yet her embrace wasn't confining, it felt like a promise, an unconditional shield, stirring a feeling in his heart he couldn't name. "Let me go," he said, voice low, lacking conviction, as if unsure he wanted freedom. Kalith chuckled softly, the sound like wind chimes in a desert, and leaned down, her face inches from his. "You're strong, but still so fragile, little warrior," she whispered, her massive finger brushing his cheek, leaving a strange warmth. "I will protect you, whether you wish it or not." Ethan gazed into her silver eyes, feeling drawn into an endless cosmos. "Why?" he asked, voice hoarse with tangled emotions, heart pounding as if to break free. "Why do this? I'm just a soldier, a stranger." Kalith looked down, her gaze softening, as if beholding a precious relic. "Because you are a mystery," she said, her voice deep, like an ancient song. "Your kind charges into battle with hearts ablaze, though your bodies are frail. You're small, but your spirit, it's greater than the mountains of my home." She smiled, and that smile made the universe shrink to just them. "And I," she whispered, her breath grazing his face scented with wild herbs. "I wish to keep that flame safe." He opened his mouth to reply, but a distant explosion shook the room, the crystal walls flashing violently, as if screaming. Kayla set him down instantly, her silver eyes sharpening, her body shifting to combat mode in a heartbeat. "My patrol," she growled, yanking her energy sword from its wall mount, the blade igniting with blue light. "Intruders." She glanced back at Ethan, her gaze both commanding and worried. "Stay here, little warrior. Don't do anything foolish." But before she could leave, a metallic screech echoed from the corridor, and a mechanical figure, smaller than a Xytheran but no less deadly, burst in. Kalith shoved Ethan behind her, her sword slashing, cleaving the intruder in a shower of sparks. "Not Xytherans," she muttered, voice tense. "Mercenaries. They're here for you." Ethan clenched his fists, his soldier's instincts flaring. Weaponless, he couldn't let Kalith fight alone. "What do they want with me?" he asked, voice low but sharp. Kalith glanced at him, her eyes glinting with an unspoken secret. "Your armor," she said. "It holds the key code to the colony's energy core. If they take it, your Earth has no chance." She grabbed his hand, pulling him behind a crystal wall. "Stay here, and don't make me worry more." But as she charged into the corridor, explosions and clashing metal ringing out, Ethan knew he couldn't just watch. His mission, and perhaps his fate, was now tied to this Sorathian warrior. The Sorathian base erupted in chaos, crimson alarm lights pulsing like the heartbeat of a wounded beast, casting flickering glows across crystal corridors that trembled under relentless explosions. Ethan Caldwell sprinted alongside Kalith, his heart pounding, adrenaline surging as towering Sorathian warriors moved through the darkness, their energy swords blazing like blue torches, clashing with a squad of human mercenaries. Not Xytherans, but traders from Earth, equipped with advanced technology, sleek armor, upgraded plasma rifles, and compact, deadly combat drones. "They're here for you," Kayla said, her voice taut, her massive hand pulling Ethan behind her, her body a living shield. "They know you're alive, and they want the data in your armor." Ethan's jaw tightened, gripping the energy rifle a Sorathian warrior had handed him. His tattered armor held the key code to Serenity 4's energy core. If it fell into enemy hands, Earth's entire defense network would collapse, leaving the homeworld defenseless. Explosions and clashing metal echoed, mingling with the roars of Sorathian warriors and the shouts of mercenaries. A soldier in glossy black armor stepped through the smoke, his cold voice amplified through a speaker. "Lieutenant Caldwell, surrender the armor, or we'll level this place." Ethan's grip on his rifle tightened, fingers trembling, not from fear, but from the rage igniting within. These were his kin, yet they'd betrayed everything he swore to protect. Before he could respond, Kalith charged, swift as a tempest, her energy sword slashing, cleaving an enemy drone in a burst of sparks and molten metal. "He's mine!" she roared, her voice thundering, silver eyes blazing with absolute resolve. Ethan didn't stand idle. He aimed and fired, each plasma round precise, dropping 2 mercenaries before they could raise their weapons. But an ion grenade detonated nearby, the shockwave knocking him down, his head spinning, the rifle slipping from his grasp. Kalith's cry tore through the chaos, his name a desperate invocation on her lips. She lunged, her colossal frame shielding him, shuddering as it absorbed the blast. Her emerald skin shimmered under the firelight, but Ethan saw her grit her teeth, silver eyes flashing with pain. "You will not die!" she shouted, her voice trembling yet resolute, her hand pulling him to his feet, pressing him against her warm chest to shield him from flying debris. In that moment, amid smoke and explosions, Ethan realized she wasn't just protecting him as a warrior, but as someone willing to sacrifice everything, as if he were the only light in her universe. His heart raced, not just from the battle, but from a strange, unfamiliar connection stirring within, a bond he'd never known. But then, a figure emerged through the smoke, and Ethan's world shattered. The mercenary commander removed his helmet, revealing the face of Captain Marcus Kane, his former superior, his brother-in-arms, the man Ethan had trusted above all in the military. Marcus's face, once warm with smiles and steadfast eyes, was now cold as steel, his gray gaze glinting with cruelty. "Ethan," Marcus said, his voice dry, devoid of emotion. "Earth is finished. The Xytherans are the future. Join me, or die with that monster." Ethan froze, his heart splintering, each word from Marcus a dagger to his chest. Marcus, who'd fought beside him through countless battles, who'd saved him from a blast on Mars, now stood here, betraying everything they'd fought for. "You!" Ethan whispered, voice breaking, hands trembling. "Why, Marcus?" Kalith's grip tightened on his hand, her massive palm warm and strong, anchoring him against the tide of pain. "He's not worthy of your loyalty," she whispered, her voice low but sharp, her silver eyes locking onto his, pulling him from the abyss. "Stay with me." Ethan looked at her, her gaze holding a sincerity he'd never seen, not even in Marcus. Then he glanced at Marcus, now a mere shadow of the friend he'd known, standing among mercenaries with a sneer. In that moment, Ethan chose. He scooped up his rifle, aimed at the control device on Marcus's chest, a transmitter commanding the mercenary squad, and fired. The plasma round tore through the air, shattering the device in a burst of sparks, paralyzing the mercenaries as their armor short-circuited, collapsing them to the ground. "Run!" Kalith shouted, dragging Ethan through the crystal corridors, debris raining as Sorathian warriors battled the remaining foes. They burst into a crystal forest outside the base, towering crystal trees glinting under Thalara's twin moons, forming a maze of light and shadow. Kalith halted behind a massive crystal boulder, checking Ethan's wounds, her gentle hand brushing his shoulder where blood seeped from a cut. "Are you all right?" she asked, her eyes filled with worry, her voice steady with a warrior's resolve. Ethan nodded, though pain and the shock of Marcus's betrayal left his mind reeling. "He knows too much about you," Kalith said, her voice low, silver eyes scanning the forest for threats. "He won't stop." Ethan clenched his fists, suppressing his rage. "He knows the key code in my armor," he said, voice hoarse. "If he informs the Xytherans..." Kalith's hand rested on his shoulder, her touch a reminder he wasn't alone. "He won't get the chance," she said, her voice certain. "I'll protect you, little warrior, even against the universe." But before Ethan could reply, a metallic screech echoed from afar, and a mechanical figure, smaller than a Xytheran but no less deadly, emerged among the crystal trees. Kalith rose, her energy sword flaring, but her glance at Ethan said their battle was only beginning. Kalith led Ethan through winding paths, weaving through the shimmering crystal forest under Thalara's twin moons, to a hidden cave nestled beneath a dormant volcano. The air inside was thick with sulfur, laced with the faint, sweet aroma of alien minerals, and the black stone walls glinted with red-orange light, as if the mountain itself breathed. Ethan, still aching from wounds and the sting of Marcus's betrayal, moved slowly, his tattered tactical armor clanking with each step. Kayla strode ahead, her towering form like a moving monument, her energy soared at her hip humming faintly. She paused before a massive stone arch, etched with glowing Sorathian runes, and turned to Ethan, her silver eyes shining like stars in the dark. "This place," she said, her voice low but heavy with meaning, "holds the secret of my people, the eternal flame." She guided him into a vast chamber where a radiant pillar of light, crimson as blood and golden as the sun, blazed at the center, burning without fuel, its power vibrating through the air. Ethan felt waves of energy from the pillar, prickling his skin, as if it called his name. Kalith knelt beside it, her massive hand touching the stone floor, and revealed, "Sorathians are not just warriors. We are keepers of the eternal flame, an ancient energy that can destroy the Xytherans. But it can only be activated by the perfect harmony of two souls." Her gaze met his, steady yet tender. "You and I, little warrior, can do this. But you must trust me." Ethan hesitated, his heart heavy. He was a soldier, forged to prioritize Earth's defense above all, but Marcus's betrayal, the man he'd seen as a brother, made him question everything, even himself. "How do I know this isn't a trap?" he asked, voice rough, hand brushing his armor where the key code to the colony's core lay hidden. Kalith rose, towering like a mountain, but leaned down, her massive hand gently touching his chest, over his beating heart. "Because I feel the fire in you," she said, her voice warm as a vow. "And I will never betray it." Her touch, though light, surged like a current, making Ethan inhale sharply, as if a dormant part of him stirred. They began the harmony, ritual, a Sorathian ceremony requiring two souls to merge minds and emotions, allowing the eternal flame to accept them. Kalith guided Ethan to kneel before the pillar, her hand on his shoulder, her biofield, a shimmering blue energy, blending with his armor's tech. Instantly, Ethan's mind was pulled into a torrent of memories not his own. He saw Kalith's blood-soaked battles, her homeworld's volcanoes erupting in fury, and the loneliness of a warrior shunned for her loyalty to outsiders. He felt her burning desire, to find a worthy soul to protect, a spirit strong enough to stand beside her. Simultaneously, Kalith glimpsed Ethan's losses, his family shattered by the Xytheran war, the pain of Marcus's betrayal, and a heart still yearning for hope despite its scars. "You're stronger than I thought," she whispered, pulling him into a tight embrace, her breath grazing his hair, scented with wild herbs. Ethan, though maintaining his soldier's facade, felt an unfamiliar safety in her arms, as if, for the first time, he didn't fight alone. But the ritual was interrupted by a deafening explosion shaking the cave, stone fragments raining from the ceiling. Kayla sprang up, her energy sword igniting, silver eyes cold. "Xytherans!" she growled, pulling Ethan behind a massive boulder. A squad of attack machines, led by a colossal AI-driven Xytheran mind, twice the size of others, with blazing red sensor eyes and adaptive learning, stormed in. Ethan and Kalith fought as one. Kalith's sword sliced through enemy armor, while Ethan's precise shots targeted weak points, but the machine anticipated their moves, dodging and countering with blue plasma beams, one grazing Kalith's shoulder, making her wince. "It's too smart!" Ethan shouted, rolling to dodge a mechanical arms swing. In desperation, Ethan noticed an odd signal from his armor. Checking quickly, his heart stopped, a tiny tracker, embedded in the circuitry, broadcasting their location to the Xytherans. "Marcus!" he whispered, voice trembling with rage and pain. "He planted it." Kalith met his gaze, her eyes filled with concern but no blame. "I've endangered you," Ethan said, voice breaking, but before he could continue, Kalith pulled him close, her lips meeting his in a fierce, resolute kiss, as if to banish all doubt. "You are my fire," she said, her voice unwavering, silver eyes ablaze. We'll face this together. They charged back into battle, Ethan destroying the tracker with a shot, but the Xytheran mind pressed forward, its mechanical arms swinging toward Calith. Ethan shouted, shoving her out of the way, both tumbling across the floor, narrowly escaping. The cave trembled, the eternal flame flaring brighter, as if responding to their bond. Calith grasped Ethan's hand, whispering, "We're not done! The flame is with us!" With a final effort, they rose, ready to face the machine and its secrets, as the volcano roared, as if the lava itself awoke to fight alongside them. The cave's air was heavy, sulfur and minerals mingling with the radiant red-orange glow of the eternal flame. Ethan stood beside Calith, his breath ragged, his tattered tactical armor clanking as he checked his energy rifle, down to a few plasma rounds. The harmony, ritual's echoes lingered, his connection to Calith's mind a smoldering fire, but a metallic screech from the cave's entrance cut through his thoughts. Calith gripped her energy sword, silver eyes scanning the dark, sharp as blades. "It's coming," she whispered, voice low but cutting, her massive hand squeezing Ethan's shoulder, as if imparting strength. "The Xytheran mind, a machine that doesn't just kill, but learns." Ethan nodded, heart pounding, feeling the volcanoes rumble below, as if the lava urged them to fight. They moved swiftly, taking cover behind a massive boulder, ready to face the shadow approaching from the entrance. The cave shook violently, stone fragments raining from the ceiling, and the eternal flame at the center flared like a miniature sun, its red-orange light bathing Ethan and Calith, highlighting the resolve in their eyes. The Xytheran mind, a colossal AI-driven machine, advanced, its red sensor eyes sweeping like light blades, predicting every strike. Ethan, clutching his near-depleted rifle, stood beside Calith, her body trembling from a plasma wound, but her silver eyes burned with defiance. They'd destroyed Marcus's tracker and Ethan's armor, but the machine pressed on, as if it had memorized them, analyzed them, and resolved to erase them. "We can't hold out long!" Ethan shouted, rolling to dodge a mechanical arm's swing, stone shards flying around him. As the Xytheran mind raised its arm for a killing blow, a roar echoed, not from Calith, but from another colossal figure charging into the cave. A Sorathian warrior with molten red skin, nearly as tall as Calith, wielding a massive energy spear, struck the machine's back. The impact sparked an explosion, staggering the Xytheran mind. "Vorin!" Calith cried, her voice a mix of surprise and relief. Vorin, with short black hair and golden eyes blazing like fire, smirked arrogantly. "I don't like you, little warrior," she said to Ethan, her sharp gaze flicking over him. "But Calith trusts you, and I trust her." Wasting no time, Vorin synced with Calith, the two warriors moving like a storm, their sword and spear slashing through the machine's armor, while Ethan's precise shots blinded its sensor eyes, short-circuiting it. Together, they forced the Xytheran mind back, and with Ethan's final shot, it collapsed in a blaze of metal and fire, but not before emitting a piercing signal, a warning. "The main fleet," Calith panted, leaning on her sword for balance, blue blood seeping from her shoulder wound. "It sent a signal to the Xytheran fleet." Ethan clenched his fists, Marcus's betrayal still smoldering within. "We don't have much time," he said, voice low but firm. Calith nodded, her silver eyes glancing at the eternal flame, still blazing at the cave's heart. "We must activate the flame before they arrive," she said, her voice certain yet tinged with worry. "It's our only chance." Vorin crossed her arms, her golden eyes glinting with doubt. "Harmony with a human?" she asked, voice deep. "Calith, you know how dangerous this ritual is. He might not survive it." Ethan met Calith's gaze, his heart racing as she turned to him, her eyes gentle but resolute. "The ritual requires you to surrender a memory," she said, her voice trembling faintly, as if she feared losing him. "Memories of Marcus, of Earth, to fully harmonize with me. I don't want you to lose who you are." Ethan felt the sincerity in her words, and for the first time, he saw her not as a Sorathian warrior, but as someone bearing her vulnerability. He took her hand, his small palm nearly lost in hers, and smiled, despite the pain of his wounds. I'm not losing anything, he said, voice steady. I've found where I belong, with you. The harmony, ritual resumed in the glowing cave, the eternal flame flaring as if answering their bond. Calith and Ethan knelt before the pillar, her biofield, a shimmering blue energy, merging with his armor's tech, creating a radiant aura around them. Ethan's mind plunged into a torrent of memories, reliving Calith's battles, her loneliness, and her yearning to protect a worthy soul. Simultaneously, Calith saw his pain, his shattered family, Marcus's betrayal, and the spark of hope still burning in his heart. The flame's energy surged, shaking the cave, and a burst of light erupted, obliterating the Xytheran mine's remnants, bathing the chamber in warm red-orange glow. But then, a voice resounded, not from Calith or Vorin, but from the eternal flame itself. You are the fire-bearer. It boomed, like a volcano awakening, echoing in Ethan's mind. The flame is not just a weapon, but a living entity, and it has chosen you. Ethan stood stunned, a searing energy coursing through him, making him tremble. Calith gripped his hand, her eyes filled with worry yet brimming with pride. You're a target now, for the Xytherans and Earth's traitors, she said, voice firm. But I swear to protect you, even against the universe. Ethan looked at her, heart pounding, not just from his new responsibility, but from the deep bond with the warrior beside him. As they left the cave, Vorin followed, her golden eyes studying Ethan with newfound respect. The Sorathian Council won't accept this easily, she warned, voice low. Calith was once exiled for defending an outsider. Now she's chosen you, and it will shake this planet. Calith squeezed Ethan's hand, as if affirming her lack of regret. Let them judge me, she said, voice certain. I've found my fire. Ethan gazed at her, feeling a part of him forever changed. He no longer fought solely for Earth, but for a universe relying on him, and for the towering warrior who'd sworn to stand by him, no matter the cost. But as they stepped from the cave, a metallic screech echoed from afar, and Ethan knew their war had only just begun. The atmosphere in the Sorathian council chamber was heavy, like a storm about to break, with blue light from towering crystal pillars casting long shadows of the warriors lined against the black stone walls. Ethan Caldwell stood at the center, his tattered tactical armor starkly out of place in the room's grandeur, yet his gaze was sharp, unwavering. Beside him, Calith, the warrior over 10 meters tall, stood like a monument, her blue hair shimmering under the light, her silver eyes blazing with resolve. Facing them was the council, dozens of stern faces with skin ranging from emerald to molten red, all bearing a cold skepticism. At the center, General Zorath, a towering Sorathian with deep purple skin and eyes like golden blades, rose, his voice thundering. A human cannot bear the eternal flame, he declared, pointing at Ethan, each word a hammer blow. He is a danger, an outsider who does not belong in our world. The crowd of warriors murmured, their voices blending into a wave of discontent. Ethan clenched his fists, feeling the weight of the universe on his shoulders. He'd faced Xytherans, survived Marcus's betrayal, but standing before the Sorathian Council, he felt smaller than ever. Kayla stepped forward, her body a living shield before Ethan, her silver eyes burning like stars against the dark. He is my fire, she said, her voice resounding, without a trace of doubt. And I will fight to protect him. Her declaration silenced the crowd, but Zoratha's lips curled, his golden eyes glinting with challenge. You were exiled once for loyalty to an outsider, Calith, he said, his voice cold as steel. Now you choose a frail human? You endanger our entire race. The debate erupted, shouts and accusations echoing from the warriors. Some sided with Zorath, arguing that the eternal flame, a living entity that chose Ethan as its fire-bearer, should not belong to an outsider. Others regarded Calith with respect but remained skeptical. Ethan's blood boiled, unable to tolerate being seen as a threat. This is my fight. He stepped forward, voice firm despite his small stature among the giants. I'll defend myself. I don't need Calith or anyone to speak for me. But Calith took his hand, her massive palm squeezing gently, her gaze tender yet resolute. You are mine, she whispered, so only he could hear. And I won't let anyone harm you. Her touch, though powerful, carried a warmth that stirred his heart, as if she protected not just his body, but his soul. Zorath raised a hand, silencing the room, and declared, "If you wish to prove your right to protect this human, Caliph, you must face me in a ritual duel." The crowd roared, their applause and shouts echoing, as if craving a spectacle of blood and fire. Ethan tried to protest, but Vorin, the red-skinned warrior nearby, placed a hand on his shoulder. "Don't interfere," she said, voice low. "This is our way. Caliph knows what she's doing." Ethan gritted his teeth, a mix of helplessness and admiration surging as Caliph stepped into the arena, a circle carved into the stone floor, glowing with Sorathian runes. The duel between Caliph and Zorath was a clash of storm and mountain, a display of raw power and finesse. Caliph moved like the wind, her energy sword slashing, carving blue arcs through the air. Zorath, wielding a massive energy axe, countered with earth-shaking blows, each clash cracking the stone floor, rattling the chamber. But in Caliph's every move, Ethan saw the ferocity of a protector, laced with a tenderness meant for him. She dodged Zorath's strike, flipping through the air, and sliced a precise cut across his shoulder, staggering him. The crowd roared, but Zorath laughed, his golden eyes glinting with respect. "You're still a tempest, Caliph," he said, yet pressed on, landing a blow that forced Caliph to one knee to block. Ethan's fists clenched, heart pounding, yearning to rush to her aid, but Vorin's gaze held him back. Finally Caliph surged up, channeling all her strength into a decisive strike, toppling Zorath, her sword hovering at his throat. "He is mine," she proclaimed, her voice thundering, silver eyes blazing at the council. The Sorathians erupted in approval, their cheers shaking the hall. Zorath, defeated, smiled, raising a hand in surrender. "You've proven yourself, Caliph," he said, voice deep but sincere. "He is worthy." He rose, looking at Ethan with a new gaze, no longer skeptical but acknowledging. The council reluctantly accepted Ethan, but Zorath approached Caliph, his hand on her shoulder, voice low and grave. "The eternal flame will draw enemies from across the universe," he warned. "Xytherans, mercenaries, perhaps even our own. You've chosen a perilous path, Caliph." She nodded, her gaze flicking to Ethan, affirming her lack of regret. Ethan stepped beside her, feeling a part of him belonged to this world, to the towering warrior who fought for him. "I'm not afraid," he said, voice steady, though he knew Zorath's words were no threat, but truth. But before the council dispersed, a metallic screech echoed from afar, and Vorin rushed forward, her golden eyes sharp. "Signal from the border," she said. "Mercenaries, and they're bringing something bigger than Xytherans." Caliph took Ethan's hand, her gaze resolute. "We'll face it together," she said, and Ethan knew, despite the dangers ahead, he'd found someone who'd never abandon him. In the glimmering darkness of Thalara's sky, where twin moons lit the crystal forests, an urgent signal from Earth Command cut through space, crackling in Ethan Caldwell's makeshift communicator. Admiral Ramirez's voice, deep and sharp, pierced the static. "Caldwell, report immediately. We've detected a Xytheran fleet advancing on Lara. If not stopped, that planet will be erased." Ethan stood in the forest, his breath misting in the cold, his gaze locked on Caliph, the towering Sorathian warrior beside him. He felt her tension in the gentle squeeze of her massive hand, enveloping his like a silent vow. "They need me," he said, voice trembling, not from fear, but from the weight of duty, to protect not just Earth, but the new world he'd come to call home. Caliph nodded, her silver eyes blazing like twin flames in the dark. "If you go, I go," she said, voice low but unwavering. "You are my fire, and I won't let it fade." They moved swiftly to the Sorathian base, entering the tactical chamber, a vast room with crystal walls etched with ancient runes, glowing blue. Sorathian warriors stood in ranks, from Vorin with her molten red skin to Zorath with his deep purple hue, their eyes wavering between skepticism and curiosity as Ethan entered. He, a small human in tattered armor, stood before the council, voice steady despite his racing heart. "We can stop the Xytheran fleet," he said, eyes sweeping over each warrior. By combining Earth's tech with the eternal flame, we can create a shield or weapon strong enough to destroy them. Vorin nodded, her golden eyes glinting with support. This human has proven his worth, she said, voice deep. I stand with him. But Zorath crossed his arms, his golden gaze cold. How can we trust a human? He asked, voice resounding. The flame chose him, but he's still an outsider. Ethan felt anger flare, but Kalitha's hand on his shoulder sent a calming energy through him. Let us prove it, she said, voice low but commanding, her silver eyes meeting Zoratha's. To counter the doubt, Ethan and Kalith activated their energy field, their bond from the harmony ritual still burning bright. Kalith raised her hand, her blue biofield merging with Ethan's armor tech, forming a radiant shield, shimmering like a curtain of light around the chamber. From afar, a Xytheran scout ship, just appearing in Thalara's sky, was struck by the field, exploding in a blinding burst. The Sorathians fell silent, then roared in approval, even Zorath bowing his head, his gaze reluctantly acknowledging. Very well, he said, voice deep. We will cooperate. The Council swiftly planned, merging Earth engineers, survivors from Serenity 4, with Sorathian warriors to develop an energy grid powered by the eternal flame. But as they prepared, a deafening explosion shook the base, cracking crystal walls, alarms blaring. A mercenary squad stormed in, led by a figure Ethan never wanted to see again, Marcus Kane, now augmented by Xytherans, his body half human, half machine, gray eyes glinting with metallic light. You think you can beat me, Ethan? Marcus roared, voice distorted through amplifiers, raising a massive energy cannon. Earth is done. The Xytherans will wipe out everything, and I'll be the last one standing. Ethan gripped his rifle, heart aching at the sight of his former friend, but he stood firm. Kalith flanked him, her energy sword flaring, but Ethan raised a hand to stop her. This is mine, he said, voice low but resolute. He charged into battle, dodging Marcus's plasma blasts, firing precisely at weak points in his mechanized body. Marcus was faster, stronger, but Ethan had something he lacked, unbreakable will and Kalitha's support. As Marcus swung a crushing blow, Kalith intervened, blocking it with her sword, giving Ethan a clear shot at the control device on Marcus's chest, the hub linking him to Xytheran tech. A plasma round tore through, shattering it in a shower of sparks, toppling Marcus as his mechanical body short-circuited. Ethan stood over Marcus, rifle aimed, but didn't fire. I've chosen where I belong, he said, glancing at Kalith, who watched with pride and concern. Sorathian warriors swiftly subdued Marcus and his mercenaries, binding them with energy cords. But before being dragged away, Marcus sneered, voice weak but venomous. The Xytherans built a superweapon, he whispered. It'll destroy everything, Thalara, Earth, your pathetic alliance. Ethan felt a chill, but Kalith took his hand, her warmth steadying him. He's trying to shake you, she said, voice certain. We'll face it together. The chamber fell quiet, but tension lingered. Zorath approached, his gaze grave. If his words are true, we must prepare now, he said. A Xytheran superweapon is unlike anything we've faced. Ethan nodded, looking at Kalith, their bond stronger than ever. We have the eternal flame, he said, voice low. And we have each other. Vorin smirked, her golden eyes glinting with respect. This little human isn't bad, she said, and the chamber laughed, easing the strain. But a new signal crackled through Ethan's communicator, Admiral Ramirez's voice. Caldwell, we've detected a massive object with the Xytheran fleet. It may be the weapon Kane mentioned. Ethan squeezed Kalitha's hand, knowing their greatest battle loomed, and only their alliance under the stars could stop it. Thalara's sky burned red under the Xytheran fleet, hundreds of colossal warships hovering like metallic specters, eclipsing the twin moons and turning the crystal forests below into a maze of light and shadow. At the fleet's heart loomed the Xytheran superweapon, a towering machine hundreds of meters high, its form a mechanical spire with rotating metal arms emitting deadly blue light. Each energy pulse shook the ground, shattering crystal pillars like glass. Ethan Caldwell stood on a hill, his patched tactical armor glinting, eyes locked on the machine. Beside him, Calith, the towering Sorathian, gripped her energy sword, silver eyes blazing with resolve. Around them, the human Sorathian alliance, Earth engineers and Sorathian warriors, moved in formation, ready to face the greatest threat they'd ever known. Ethan and Calith led the charge, their harmony bond amplifying the eternal flame's power within them. They raised their hands, Calith's blue biofield merging with Ethan's armor tech, forming a radiant defense grid, shimmering like a sky-wide curtain of light. The grid clashed with the Xytheran's cloaking shields, exposing them, and Sorathian warriors struck, their swords and spears slicing through metal like paper. Vorin, her red skin glowing, led a squad, her spear piercing a warship, while Zorath, purple-skinned, coordinated Earth engineers to launch enhanced plasma warheads. But the superweapon began charging, a blue glow gathering at its apex, emitting a screech like a beast's roar. Ethan's tactical visor data warned that if it completed charging, it would unleash a pulse to obliterate the Lara. "We have to stop it," Ethan said, voice low but firm, glancing at Calith. She nodded, but her silver eyes flickered with worry. "You can't go in alone," she said, voice trembling slightly. Ethan checked his armor's data, spotting a weak point in the superweapon's energy core. "The only way is to infiltrate the core and activate the eternal flame from within," he said, voice low. "But it's near suicidal." Calith gripped his hand, her massive palm tightening, eyes glistening, a rare glimpse of vulnerability from the indomitable warrior. "I can't lose you," she whispered, voice breaking. Ethan smiled, reaching up to touch her cheek, standing on tiptoe. "You won't," he said, then kissed her, brief but fierce, a promise. "I'll come back." With Vorin and Zorath's aid, Ethan launched the infiltration. Vorin led a Sorathian squad in a diversionary assault, drawing off Xytheran defenders, while Zorath piloted an upgraded Sorathian transport, carrying Ethan close to the superweapon. The ship weaved through plasma blasts and debris, Zorath shouting over the comms. "Human, you'd better survive, or Calith will tear me apart." Ethan gave a dry laugh, leaping from the ship, landing at an auxiliary entrance. Inside, he faced Xytheran guards, smaller, agile machines with energy blades and plasma guns. Ethan moved like a shadow, firing precisely, dodging, and using ion grenades to disable them. But each step toward the core felt heavier, as if the superweapon drained his very energy. At the core, a vast chamber with swirling blue energy columns, Ethan activated the eternal flame. Kneeling, he focused on his bond with Calith, feeling her biofield despite the kilometers between them. A red-orange light erupted from him, merging with the core, triggering a chain reaction. The machine shuddered, its screech turning to a pained wail, and Ethan ran back, dodging falling metal. The core's explosion spread, destroying the superweapon and cascading outward, obliterating the Xytheran fleet in a blinding light, like a third sun blooming over the Lara. As the light faded, Calith charged into the superweapon's wreckage, her sword slashing through metal to clear a path. "Ethan!" she cried, voice trembling, silver eyes scanning the debris with desperation. She found him, slumped among the rubble, badly wounded, blood seeping from a gash on his forehead, but alive. Calith knelt, pulling him into her massive arms, holding him as if he might vanish. "You promise?" she whispered, voice choked, tears streaming down her cheeks, glinting like gems. Ethan, despite the pain, gave a weak smile, his hand touching her face. "And I kept it," he rasped, voice raw but warm. Above, the Xytheran fleet's remnants fell like shooting stars, destroyed by the Alliance's energy grid. Vorin and Zorath approached, their eyes glinting with respect. "This little human is a fire," Vorin said, smirking. Zorath nodded, his golden gaze softening. "You saved the Lara, Caldwell. We owe you." But Ethan only looked at Calith, feeling her warmth, their bond stronger than any victory. The Alliance stood amid the ruins, the twin moons' light affirming their triumph over darkness. But Ethan knew, though this victory was theirs, new challenges awaited, and only Calith, his fire, would always stand by him. The Lara, after the firestorm of the Xytheran battle, now bathed in the gentle light of its twin moons, the crystal forests sparkling like jewels, reflecting a world reborn. The human Sorathian alliance, forged in blood and fire, stood as a symbol of unity, proof that even the most different species could stand together against the dark. Ethan Caldwell, once a lone lieutenant on the battlefield, now stood at the heart of the Sorathian base, his tattered armor replaced by a new suit blending Earth tech and Sorathian design, shimmering blue like Kalith's skin. Beside him, Kalith, the towering warrior, stood tall, her blue hair cascading, silver eyes glowing with pride and a tenderness reserved for him. In the council chamber, where crystal pillars etched with ancient runes still shone, Marcus Kane was brought forth, hands bound by energy cords, his half-human, half-machine body a broken heap, gray eyes clouded with bitterness. Ethan looked at him, heart aching at memories of their brotherhood, fighting under Mars's red sky. The council asked Ethan to decide Marcus's fate, but he shook his head, voice low but firm. "He'll be imprisoned," Ethan said, eyes locked on Marcus. "Killing him isn't my way. I choose forgiveness, not vengeance." Marcus sneered, but his gaze flickered, perhaps with regret, or merely defeat. Kalitha's hand rested on Ethan's shoulder, her touch affirming his choice. "You have the heart of a great warrior," she whispered, voice warm, and Ethan smiled, feeling lighter than ever. The eternal flame, after destroying the Xytheran superweapon, had dissipated, as if its mission was complete. But its power lived on in Ethan and Kalith, not through energy or weapons, but in their love, a fire that never faded. The Sorathian Council, led by Zorath, named Kalith an ambassador, tasking her with building bridges to Earth and other planets in the infinite star systems. Zorath, his purple skin gleaming, regarded Kalith with newfound respect. "You've proven your loyalty isn't weakness," he said, voice deep. "And this human?" He turned to Ethan, his golden eyes softening. "He's proof strength lies not in size, but in spirit." Ethan was chosen as a liaison between Earth and Sorathians, a role he accepted with resolve, knowing he represented not just humanity, but a future of coexistence. That night, as Dalra's twin moons shone, Ethan and Kalith stood on a crystal-grassed hill, gazing at a sky glittering with millions of stars. The air carried the scent of wildflowers and minerals, a blend of the wild and wondrous. Ethan, small beside Kalith, looked up at her, eyes brimming with emotion. "You changed me," he said, voice low, each word carved from his heart. "I thought I was just a soldier, living to fight, to survive. But you made me want to live for something greater, for love, for hope." Kalith knelt, her lips brushing his forehead, so gentle it stole his breath, her breath scented with wild herbs. "And you taught me strength lies not just in the sword, but in the heart," she replied, voice trembling, silver eyes shining like the stars above. "We belong to each other, little warrior, under every star's light." They embraced, their energy fields, remnants of the eternal flame, merging, creating a radiant glow, red-orange and blue intertwined, enveloping them like a vow that no matter how vast the universe, they'd always find each other. Ethan felt Kalitha's warmth, her strength and tenderness, and for the first time, he truly belonged not to Earth, not to the Lara, but in the arms of this towering warrior. In the distance, Vorin and Zorath watched, their eyes glinting with respect. "They are the future," Vorin said, voice low, and Zorath nodded, for once without objection. As Dalra's twin suns rose, bathing the planet in golden light, Ethan and Kalith began their new mission. They worked with Earth engineers and Sorathian warriors to rebuild Serenity 4, transforming it into a hub of cultural and technological exchange. Ethan met Admiral Ramirez via video link, who offered a rare smile. "You've done the impossible, Caldwell," he said. "Earth is proud." But Ethan only looked at Kalith, knowing this triumph belonged to them both. They held a ceremony under Thalara's sky, where humans and Sorathians stood hand in hand, vowing to protect their alliance against any threat. The final night before Ethan and Kalith departed for the infinite star systems to negotiate with other planets, they sat by a crystal lake, its surface reflecting their faces. "Are you afraid?" Ethan asked, voice low. "Of what awaits us?" Kalith smiled, pulling him into her lap, letting him rest against her warm chest. "With you by my side, little warrior, I fear nothing," she said, voice deep like a song. Ethan closed his eyes, feeling her heartbeat, and knew he'd found home, not just in his great protector's arms, but in a love stronger than the stars, a fire that would burn forever in the vast cosmos.